All right, so I'm going to introduce our keynote today is Dr. Thaddeo Tibasiima, and he's a Ugandan who has been working with smallholder farmers to promote sustainable family farming since 2008. Thaddeo completed a bachelor's degree of agricultural land use and management from Makerere University in 2007 and a Master of Science in Agroecology from Uganda Makerere University in 2013. He completed his PhD in agriculture at the University of Natural Resources and Applied Life Sciences in Vienna in May 2023. Since 2008, Dr. Thaddeo has worked on several projects in the Rwenzori region, including the Sustainable Agriculture Trainers, Super Farmer Program, Organic Denmark, and as part of his work, Thaddeo gave several presentations at international conferences on the potential of participatory farmer extension systems and agroecology. As a result, he worked hand in hand with several research institutions, and he's looking to link academia with practitioners with his research findings. As a result, Thaddeo has been involved in the establishment of several agroecological farms in the Rwenzori region. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Thaddeo, and
happy to be invited to this annual General Assembly. It's the first, and we are not very old members of GFRAS, through whom we come to be associated to this process. So it's a pleasure that in a short time we have joined the family. We are invited to make this presentation to the annual General Assembly. I've been invited to present on our organic FFLG approach, and I am currently at the African Organic Agriculture Conference in Kigali. So actually the presentation feels like I did travel to make it because I am not in a home environment. You might hear some background movements and talks because there are people getting out of different presentations and here and there, but this is the most conducive place I will find. Don't know, my slides are not moving.
If you can, yeah, now they are. If you cannot move them, I have them as backup, so don't worry.
Okay, so I will start with the situation of most smallholder farmers, maybe predominant in Africa, but also in other parts of the world, that most are actually experiencing a situation where they have limited advisory services. Here in Uganda, for one farmer advisor, they are expected to attend to at least 1,800 households. And this is far much big compared to the recommended by FAO, which is for one advisory officer is supposed to attend to 750,000. So this is quite a scarcity in terms of advisory services. They have limited resources to implement most of the recommended options. The practices exist in theory, but implementing them is actually constrained. There is a lack of context-specific farming practices. Most of the practices recommended are actually generalized as compared to being able to suit to particular situations on the farm. Then most of the young people who actually would provide labor where there is no mechanization, they are having very little interest in farming, with more oriented towards activities that are generating quick money. Many have very limited land. For example, in Uganda in particular, most farmers have less than half an hectare of land. And then the services, wherever they have requirements for financial services, either the loans are prohibitive or actually they do not have the capacity to access these loans. And climate change is most hard hitting on these farmers compared maybe to the large-scale farmers who can intervene with some technologies like relying on irrigation. So based on this situation, we try to find a solution to this situation that is actually limiting most of the farmers. And so in 2009, working with Organic Denmark, which is an organization based in Denmark, we worked with the local organizations to establish a farmer advisory service that would actually address most of the constraints and situations that I have mentioned above. The idea was actually to use the farmer field school approach, but this actually experienced limitations, and we ended up having another approach. So we started by training, sorry, I had forgotten to turn on my video. We trained 25 farmer trainers, and we were mostly orienting towards the organic farming practices. But when we went into the implementation in the field, the farmer field school approach that we had anticipated to use didn't work. And looking at what eventually worked, this is where we came up with the name Farmer Family Learning Group approach. So what is a Farmer Family Learning Group? It's normally a group of 5 to 30 farmer families working together on each other's farm in rotation with the aim to solve similar challenges using local available solutions. And these are normally supported by a facilitator. So one of those people I mentioned that we actually started with 25 facilitators. It's a flexible approach that is enabled by facilitators who are not basically trainers, who are not using a top-bottom approach. So a facilitator is actually that person who has a lot of knowledge, both theoretical and practical, but also can handle several different aspects that affect farmers' livelihoods. So including issues to do with marketing, issues to do with gender, but is capable of actually listening to the experiences of other people and only providing guidance on what would be the best way to handle their challenges. So the facilitator must always be a good listener and is encouraging everyone in the group to share their knowledge and experiences. And one who knows that actually if knowledge is shared, it will increase as compared to other resources which when shared, they normally decrease per person. A facilitator is actually normally not someone who is motivated by financial payment, but rather the motivation comes from the prestige they gain in society and the new knowledge that they acquire through interacting with others. So we normally conduct a course for facilitators, and these facilitators are identified by their local organizations, especially having been people who are active in their communities. So we bring these ones to a course of normally 2 weeks to 3 weeks, and we mentor them into changing their approach of engaging with the community from being trainers to being facilitators of a process that is determined by their own communities. So the facilitators course is actually normally self-administered. The facilitators are the ones who generate the expectations and the curriculum that is to be covered. And so we form groups of facilitators between maybe 3 to 5 who will actually take over during the day. And they are generally the ones responsible for ensuring that the agenda of that day is covered. In these trainings, we normally cover different participatory methods for engaging farmers. For example, agroecosystem analysis. We cover organic resilient farming practices, governance of farmer institutions, issues to do with collective marketing and advocacy. And we emphasize that during the process, the facilitators actually can have a chance to do continuous learning. And this is through exchange learning visits. We also form facilitator networks where they continuously interact and can share experiences. And also we continuously mentor them during their field engagements. And then after this core process, we normally do follow-up courses which are demand-driven according to the capacity needs of the different facilitators. So what are the principles or uniqueness of the farmer-farmer learning group approach? It is actually participatory, where each farmer brings their knowledge and experience. And we use rotational visits, where each farm in the farmer-farmer learning group will at one point become a host and share with the other farmer family group members their issues on the farm and how they can actually participate with the entire group to develop to a better situation. And we ensure that the whole family is involved. So both the children, the parents participate in different ways, including the elderly people who can pass on knowledge and experience to the young ones. We emphasize participatory planning, which is actually done by the household. Each household develops their integrated farm plan, and this becomes the basis for the interventions, the agroecological practices that will be implemented on the farm. We ensure that the process is flexible, so the different FFLGs can start from different angles. Others could start at integrated pest management. Others could start at soil fertility management, depending on what is the most need. So the curriculum is not like in the farmer field school, where it is actually organized chronologically. In the FFLG, there is a co-creation of knowledge and sharing to ensure that there is no top-bottom approach towards developing solutions, so that the solutions that are developed are actually community-based. And we ensure that FFLG has social and economic and ecological resilience, as opposed to other interventions which may actually look at one aspect of sustainability. The farmer-farmer learning group approach ensures that all the aspects of sustainability are addressed. So for each farmer-farmer learning group, it will always go through these steps, although they may not happen chronologically, but at least when looking at most of them, they will start with the formation, go into consolidation, they go into good governance, they start to do local advocacy, and then they work on issues to do with social and economic sustainability. Meanwhile, those that concern ecological sustainability are normally addressed during the FFLG consolidation, where they start to make rotational visits, going from one farmer family to another. And we realize that this FFLG approach is actually self-sustaining, but how is that possible? It's because for each FFLG, we have different layers of facilitators. We started with the external facilitators. These are people from a nearby organization. They are knowledgeable in issues to do with agroecological practices, but also the social aspects of how to develop in a community. But then, realizing that there was a big demand for these facilitators, we came up with where we can have someone internal within the group being mentored by the external facilitator. So there is an internal facilitator. And now currently, we have realized that to have more external facilitators, we need master facilitators who can actually build and mentor the capacity of the external and internal facilitators. Now, with these different structures, there is always availability of someone to attend to the issues of an FFLG at whatever time. So the issues to do with limited advisory services is therefore solved, both during the project period intervention, but also later after the project. There is family ownership of initiatives where the family plans jointly. Each of the family members feels they benefit from the interventions. So whether the parents are there or not, the children can actually take care of these interventions, and they will be able to be sustained at family level. The FFLGs build social capital within their community, and this enables them to solve other issues that would actually result into failure of the sustainability of the achievements if it were a project of, let's say, 3 years. So if they have actually developed maybe their water system where they can collect water, they work on the road, like this group you are seeing here in picture, they were working on their road, which is a mountain area. Eventually, even if the project terminates, they are able to still continue having their interventions continue in their community. They also have income generating activities. They integrate them in the FFLG. For example, they can as a group go and work on a particular farm and they will get paid, but they also have savings and credit, which they can lend to other groups or other farmers, and they have some interest generated, which actually goes into their savings pool. These groups have a collaboration with the government. We ensure that they are working hand in hand with the local leadership and eventually advocate for them at district level. And so even when we are not present there, then the government extension officer can always actually engage with these groups. So why do we encourage that institutions should adopt this FFLG approach? This approach is a very cost-effective approach, where we see that on average, for 500 households, which have about 3,500 people, in a project of 3 years, you can spend only about 55,700 US dollar, which is roughly between 10 to 13 US dollar per person. And once you have had an engagement of 3 years with these groups, they have reached consolidation and they are able to continue on their own through the structure I have described of the internal and external facilitators. It's an approach that helps to build trust as the farmers interact with each other. They rotate, go to each other's farm. They open up each other's farm to one another. Therefore, they can actually trust that whoever is a member is having a good cause for the group. So this trust actually results into the possibility that the interventions will continue even when the institution has maybe withdrawn. Then it's one good way to advocate, because there are big numbers between 5 to 10 households, and in a community or here at sub-county level, you could have more than 20 FFLGs. That brings to around 600 households. Those ones are able to influence decisions at government level, even if it meant maybe where you have to put on vote. Then it's a practical oriented approach, where the practices, as I have described, are practically implemented by the facilitator with the farmer families, and therefore it actually results into real adoption of the practices that, rather than theoretical trainings. It's one way that supports record management, because the facilitator, at least even though many farmers cannot read and write, the facilitator has records about these farmer families, and therefore, as an institution, it is very easy to do monitoring and evaluation, given that the data which the facilitator continuously collects during interaction with the farmer family learning group. It's also a participatory monitoring and evaluation approach, where the farmers sit together, they look at what they had planned as a group and assess if they have achieved what they planned to do, and then, of course, replan what the next steps should be. It has a sustainable impact, as I have described, showing you why FFLG approach actually results into long-lasting impact in the community and are able to continue without necessarily being supported by an external institution. Then it's, of course, one way that can help an institution to have a uniform product quality, and therefore it can enable to easily access big markets that require huge quantities, because the farmers come together, and in the FFLG they have different committees, a committee for quality management, a committee for marketing, and a committee on gender. These committees ensure that the group actually is having uniform possibilities of production. Why is it recommended for the farmer family? It is one sure way to create family cohesion. When you see that your farm is going to host others, certainly, even if you have not been planning together or speaking together as a family, this starts to come up automatically. And therefore, if there have been any issues where the family is not united, it can create unity in a very short time, and actually also contribute to gender issues being resolved. It results in increased productivity, because other members in the farmer family learning group are actually supporting in ensuring that the practices are being adopted at the farm in practice. It's one sure way of having resilient farmer family farms. It's contributing to social capital, even when it comes to the household level, but also amongst the different households in the community, they start to have joint projects. It also enables the family to have access to joint markets, which they would not actually access alone. And it's one sure way to access some finance that would otherwise not be got by an individual family. The FFLG can go and access interest-friendly loan, and therefore redistribute it to the members, but also through their savings and credit schemes, they are able to access quick loans at very limited, at very low interest. And of course, it's one sure way that brings the family to feel important in the community and to have dignified and happier lives. So achievements that we have seen in our interventions in the past 15 years where we have used this FFLG approach, we have so far 15,000 farmer families with about 105,000 persons benefiting from this approach. And the benefits I am actually about to show. We have 150 external facilitators whom we have built their capacity in agroecological practices. We have seen 10% increase in the production of crops and 13% increase in the production of livestock. Sorry, this is not crop, but livestock. We have seen 20% increase in the income of farmer families. We have seen 30% increase in the sales from the smallholder farms. With Organic Denmark, with whom we started to work in 2009, we have recently started to work on programs of 4 years. The last one, where we have been implementing for 4 years, we have managed to train 144 new FFLGs. Other 6 organizations have adopted the FFLG approach. we have started to work with 5 local governments who are adopting this FFLG approach in their extension advisory services. These include Kasese, and in this area, actually, I am proud to mention that we are about to start working with UFAS and AFAS in among the interventions that are coming through with the support of GFRAS. We are also working with the Vundugujo local district, Tagwenda, Wakiso, and Chegegwa. All these are actually part of the Rwenzori region. We have 162 participants who have been trained under COFLEC in this 4-year program. We have trained 18 master facilitators that have the capacity to train new facilitators. And in Uganda, 88% and 76% in Tanzania of the members that have adopted at least 3 agroecological methods on their farms. And we have seen 30% chairpersons of the FFLGs being women, while 75% of the leadership positions are actually taken up by women in these FFLGs. So it is contributing to bringing women into leadership. In conclusion, I can firmly say that the organic farmer-family learning group approach is a sustainable, empowering, and efficient agriculture development approach, which contributes to positive changes in the food security, climate change adaptation, and social capital for small-scale farmer families. And that the organic FFLG approach is the best fit for transitioning farmers towards organic or agroecological farming. So in reference to that conclusion, we recommend that organizations and local government embrace this effective approach, increase the support for participatory farmer advisory services, utilize the services of COFLEC, which is the organization that has been created as a knowledge hub in upscaling the farmer-family learning group approach. And you can partner with us, as I have mentioned that we are already members of UFAS, and we have an intervention to start together in 2024. So we can work together on training on the FFLG approach. We can include you in our exchange learning visits to practically interact with FFLGs, also including those who are charged of farmer advisory services. We can introduce them in the FFLG facilitators network. We can support on technical backup in this approach. We are also having capacity for hosting internships whether students or staff would like to come and learn about this approach. Also working together on farmer advisory services, working on market access, research on the approach, but also on the resilient agroecological methods, and also advocating for the farmers. But also we organize conferences where we bring together agroecological actors to share experiences and knowledge and work together. I would like to thank you and apologize if there has been any noise, and also for the part where I was not putting my video. This is the end of my presentation. Since I was not hearing feedback, I hope now I can actually come to know whether I was actually addressing the Annual General Assembly, or maybe I have been alone for some time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Excellent presentation, Dr. Thaddeo. Just so you know, as you were presenting, I was sending a text to our professional development person at TIEPNet to say, we need to get him to do a presentation for a group. So excellent. Any questions for Dr. Thaddeo or comments?
Maybe just on the technical note on what you said, Norma, we have recorded, of course, the presentation, and we will share and upload that to the GFRAS YouTube channel and can distribute to you and spread with the networks, of course. And we would also like to thank Thaddeo again.
Thank you, Ingrid. Carl?
Yeah, thank you very much. So thank you very much. They're very inspiring for sure. So just for information, this approach was one I had heard about. So when we were in Uganda with the new agroecology project, we invited people to go to a field visit to visit Thaddeo and the farmers. And the team from Madagascar was very interested in it because they really faced difficulty with the almost non-existent extension system. So we are already seeing an interest from them that they want to come and be trained in this new approach. Another thing I just want to do, maybe Glenn will have a very good question. What is the difference between the farmer family learning group and the farmer field schools? So as I see it, the farmer family learning group is it's built on the principle of the farming field schools, but it's taking more dimensions in or sort of expanding on it. So instead of working with the individual farmers, it works with the whole household. It takes a lot of social things in that is not really, is more technical in the farmer field schools. They don't take a plot out where they work together, the farmers, but they rotate on the farmers' farms. So instead of it's the advisor who says what the agenda is, it is the farmer who is being visited who says, what is it we are going to talk about today? So it's very much built on the principle of the farmer field schools, but it's a further development of the farmer field school, which is much more aligned to the agroecology way of thinking and being much more of a social capital, inclusive of the whole family. So that's why we are encouraged about using this approach in the agroecology project. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you, Carl, for elaborating very well on that question. And thank you for having visited the FFLGs, and you are always welcome back.
Jenna?
Yes, thank you so much for your presentation. And one of the things that I really enjoyed was the emphasis on the social aspects. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about either the ambition or your current activities in internships and fellowships, because as you may know, also through this agroecology project that we are doing with GFRAS, we're also looking to train young agricultural professionals as agroecology fellows. And so I was just curious if you could elaborate a little bit more about that part of your program, just for our reference. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, it has not been more than 2 weeks ago since we last had our last intern. These are either coming at a master's level, PhD level, bachelor's level. Others choose to stay with us at the back office. Others choose to live in the FFLG in the community for maybe 1 or 2 months. So it depends on the needs of each of these interns, what their basic interest is, and then we can actually define how we can work together with their institutions back home to ensure that they can have a practical experience about this approach.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other, oh, I see new message. All right, so there are lots of comments thanking you for your presentation. All right.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to present to this big assembly, and wishing you all the best.
Thank you, thank you.